Oh my gosh, design t-shirts on sale for the next 48 hours, link in the description.
Stop gawking, Jonathan, just tell me some fucking phrases.
Homebound Arc. The heavy brass handles were cold and unmoving, the tall wooden frame looming over me as if I was about to enter an entirely foreign house. My pale hand slowly reached for the handle before I thought better of it, slowly retracting my arm and glancing upwards. Feeling strange to be knocking at my own house, I brought my hand upwards and pressed my knuckles against the door, giving several firm raps. Bustling instantly resounded from inside, feet scrambling as I heard the shifting of metal. My heart squirmed into my throat, tinting my saliva red as I swallowed hard. Several more agonizing seconds passed before the door suddenly shuddered lightly, the handle twisting slowly. I took several steps back as it calmly swung open, the hand on the other side pale and layered with scratches as if belonging to a corpse. My eyes widened in concern, erupting in outright fear as the door finally opened all the way and a ghastly sight greeted me. The girl inside was like something out of a nightmare, her decayed, brown hair scraggly and wild as her vile irises were dilated to the point where no color shone through. She was roughly my age, but hunched over as if a broken doll, skin radiating a kind of sickness. From her back, 6 metal coils draped to the ground, rusted over with blood and flesh. Her eyes didn't leave me, didn't so much as blink as she slowly let go of the handle. As she calmly stepped aside, my chest again tightened. Like a deer in the headlights, my paralyzed form was suddenly painted with countless laser sights. The heavy metal of automatic weapons glinted in the faint interior lighting as I didn't dare to blink away the blinding lights threading through my eyes like needles. My breath was held hostage in my throat, so chained up that I couldn't even muster a response as a voice called out.
Who are you?
It spoke, the sights not leaving me, or even quavering in their aim. I just coughed up silence, my hands rising further above my head as I desperately tried to speak.
Disengage the target.
The voice sighed after some time.
Subject 47. Deadlock.
The ghastly creature staring at me twitched several times before slowly stumbling to turn around. The laser sight softly dropped, red dots swarming like insects across the floor as weapons jangled. I finally blinked, my eyes remaining wide and horrified as the girl staggered beside the militia, before pressing her hands over her eyes and curling into a fetal position on the floor. Like some kind of child, her knees curled into her chest as she lay motionless.
Who are you?
The voice repeated, the source of it finally stepping forwards. Her hands pressed against her hips, one holding some kind of remote, the other some sort of black taser. Her crimson eyes were so dull, so surrounded by deep rings of filth and sleep deprivation that they appeared to radiate more of a grimy pink. Her hair matched in color nearly to a T, pale red strands filled with dirt and grime as they cascaded down her back. Her lab coat was splattered with a dried substance that resembled blood to a horrifying degree. She was no older than 19. John? I finally managed to gag out, my hands still raised stupidly above my head. My name, John Matthews. Her eyes widened.
Is your father Richard Davis Matthews?
She quickly inquired, stepping further out from the line before gesturing to several militia members, as I hastily nodded yes.
Good timing.
She turned back to me, beginning to walk forwards.
Is it possible you've recently seen a creature with black hair? She would have been fairly tall, possessing chain appendages?
I blinked slowly, shaking my head and slowly letting my hands drop.
Yes or no? We refer to her as Subject 12. How much has your father told you, Jonathan?
No, I staggered. Father told me what? What do you mean? The girl slowly came to a stop, hands again pressing against her hips as she thought deeply. Her head bowed for several seconds before she seemed to make up her mind.
Secure the perimeter.
She addressed the group behind her.
Leave 47 in deadlock. Martinez and Smith. You two are to come with Jonathan and I. Execute. Now.
The people began shuffling, and the girl walked to stand several feet in front of me, her hands remaining on her hips as she tilted her head.
My name is Cersei Parsons.
She nodded emotionlessly.
I began interning at Ravnak facility beginning my sophomore year of high school, following the death of my foster family. Your father and his staff likely knew of me as nothing more than Dr. Cleo Dahmer's assistant. But after the subsequent deaths 3 days ago, I have been left in charge of their work. Call it a fluke, if you will. But nevertheless, you will now address me as director.
I said nothing, just stared with utter confusion.
Jonathan,
she continued after my clear silence.
I'm about to trust a lot of information with you, and I need you to understand 2 things. 1. I will need you to tell me everything you know in exchange. 2. If you reveal what I'm about to speak to anyone, you will be killed without restraint.
Her head cocked to one side.
Do you understand?
She nodded, readjusting her stance as 2 of the militia members stopped beside her. I didn't so much as move.
Taking that as a yes,
she sighed.
I must first regrettably inform you about your father's death.
My eyes widened.
I will give you time to dwell on that later. What that means is far more important at this time. A subject he was in charge of. Subject 12? A highly trained and volatile weapon of mass destruction, recently broke out of containment through unknown means. Ravnak facility was reduced to nothing but a massive crater of rubble after a substantial explosion occurred 3 days ago. We can't be certain if Subject 12 caused this or was assisted by an unknown entity. But what is certain is that Subject 12 was the only survivor. The current director, Maxwell Styx, your father, and Dr. Cleo Dahmer were among those who perished. Subject 12 has since escaped to the surrounding area. We do not wish to cause any panic by evacuating citizens just yet, but it is imperative that we terminate Subject 12 as soon as possible, before she comes into contact with any humans.
I looked at her with wide eyes, glancing up at the 2 men beside her, half expecting them to crack a smile at her joke. They didn't. They looked utterly stoic.
Our subjects are always fitted with fail-safes,
Cersei continued.
They remove the empathetic portion of a host brain to allow bypassing of their empathetic feedback response. But more importantly, they allow us to inject a large quantity of cyanide into the host if need be. With the kill code being sent, we could terminate Subject 12 without ever having to find her.
Her hands pressed against her hips as her eyes narrowed.
However,
she continued,
with all of the facility computers destroyed, there is no way to send the code. And we can't possibly replicate 12's transceiver signal without having any of her log information. The only remaining place her kill signal is still stored is on your father's personal computer.
She handed off her radio-like device to the man beside her before turning back to me.
His computer is encrypted to a degree not even we can hack.
She spoke confidently.
We need you to tell us what his passcode is, or this town as you know it may be eradicated.
I don't, I gagged, feeling my chest clench. I have no idea.
He wouldn't have told you.
Cersei cut me off, nodding.
That is not what I'm asking. We are able to determine that the passcode is a 29-character phrase, including spaces and symbols. It is likely a sentence of great importance to him, or a series of numbers that have significance in his life. Though, the latter is less likely. We need to try everything you can.
I was entirely unable to process all of this at once, but Cersei didn't seem to have time to wait for me to snap out of my trance.
Subject 47,
She shouted, hand resting on her hip as her other hand thrashed outwards to grab the remote from the man.
disengage, bullet redirection, exit, deadlock.
The brown-haired creature stirred, hands slowly pressing to the floor as she staggered to her feet, dead eyes searching to land on Cersei with indifference. Cersei whirled around, lashing a pistol up from her hip, lining up her sights on 47 before slamming the trigger back several times. I flinched backwards in panic, watching the bullets tear forwards as Cersei unloaded the entire magazine with horrific precision at the girl's skull. The creature, in contrast, didn't move a muscle, faint eyes staring apathetically as the bullets shattered into vibrant beads of molten lead around her form. The air quavered slightly with the resulting wind, not a single shot touching her, as everything seemed to vaporize in mid-air.
This is what we're dealing with.
Cersei snapped, whirling back around to me.
If I hadn't disengaged bullet redirection, 47 would have deflected those bullets into my skull. This is what's out there! Unrestrained and getting closer to your town every second we waste. Subject 12 would no longer take command, as she's been trained to deal with everything we could throw at her. Our only chance is to activate her failsafe. I will not risk awakening Subject 104. Stop gawking, Jonathan, and tell me some fucking phrases!
I gagged, shaking my head several times before swallowing hard. You could try 1993 World Series, Red Sox World Series 2013 win, or, some combination of that, or...
Fantastic. That's great.
Cersei put out her hand.
But I didn't mean to literally tell me. You're going to sit in front of your father's computer and type phrases until your fingers bleed.
She turned to the two men beside her, running her hand through her frazzled hair before addressing them.
Smith, Martinez, you two are to keep lookout for intruders near this household. Inform the rest of the team to rendezvous with the search brigade for now. Jonathan and I will attempt to crack the computer passphrase. In my absence, Manson will act as the puppet director and will take control of 47. However, I still wish for all decisions to pass through me before finalization. Is that understood?
The two men nodded, scrambling out of the doors. Cersei took a big breath, tired, sunken eyes making it look as though she might faint at any minute. Her skin was ghostly, coarse with dirt and grime, and although commanding and intimidating only seconds ago, as the two militia members stepped outside, her posture slumped and her face grew knitted with worry.
Please. Sorry.
She stammered, rubbing at her eyes, the red hue increasing as the dirt from her fingers irritated them.
I know this is a lot to take in all of a sudden.
Before I could respond, however, a man stepped in through the front door. Cersei's posture instantly snapped upright again, her stinging eyes narrowing in a commanding scowl as she held the radio-like device outwards.
Manson,
She spoke coldly.
47 is to return to her containment unit and enter deadlock until I specifically instruct otherwise. You will give her no further instructions, nor adjust her failsafe levels. Do not even attempt to use her against 12 without my explicit consent. Is this understood?
Of course, Director.
The man nodded, adjusting his tie and grabbing the remote. He went to pull back, only to have Cersei hold on to the device firmly, causing him to stumble slightly.
Manson,
She hissed, fingers nearly cracking the device with pressure as her cold eyes stabbed into him.
every decision passes through me first.
Of course.
He nodded, taken aback by her sudden tone, beginning to sweat slightly as she let the silence continue for some time. Finally, however, after what felt like minutes of her piercing eyes searching his face, She grudgingly let the device go, repeating one last time.
She is to enter deadlock until I instruct otherwise.
The man nodded, positively rattled now as he stammered out like a wounded puppy.
Anything else, Director?
Keep me informed.
She just shrugged, as if suddenly entirely disinterested in him.
Don't do anything stupid. I'm trusting you.
Understood.
He nodded before picking up his tone and addressing the brown-haired creature.
47? Follow me.
The creature's haunted eyes swiveled like daggers to the man, chilling everything in their path. I watched him visibly tense, but he seemed to push his fears down as Cersei's eyes again glanced at him.
47. Follow.
He repeated, finally getting the creature to begin stepping forwards like a deranged marionette as he walked out the door. Before long, it was again just Cersei and me. Silence reigned for some time as she again took several seconds to calm herself down. Her worry only seemed to be growing the more she lost herself in thought, and I seemed to startle her as I put my hand out slightly in concern. She flinched heavily, but her gnashed teeth were quickly replaced by indifference as she took a deep breath and spoke softly.
Everyone here is a bit too personally tied to the operations of this company.
She sighed, shrugging her shoulders.
I could see almost every one of them taking matters into their own hands and fucking things up completely. If I show any sign of weakness, give them the slightest reason to think I'm not fit to lead this mission, there'll be no telling what might happen. That's why I'm not sure.
Her eyes faded slightly as she again lost herself in thought, and the words she seemed to have planned to say came out as silent mutters. Say, Cersei? I stammered, again getting her to flinch by accident as I put out my hand. Her eyes darted to me, causing me to wilt slightly just in looking at the way filthy darkness seemed to swirl behind them. Her pupils were horrible pinpricks, ghosts darting around the murky pink sheen of her irises. My heart tensed as if I was somehow looking down the barrel of a loaded gun, her stare enough to convince me that one blink could send a bullet through my skull. I squirmed awkwardly. If it makes you feel any better, I think you're horrifying. For the first time, a light smile crawled into view from her lips as she laughed.
That doesn't make me feel any better.
She smirked.
But I do appreciate it.
A sickly giggle bubbled from her lips before she readjusted her hands onto her hips and continued.
You ready to try this?
I stammered, just thinking about the passphrase again, making my mind reel with everything I had just witnessed. Yeah, sure.
I understand that your father's death must be a shock.
She spoke, as if forcing herself to say it rather than genuinely caring.
I do appreciate your quick understanding and cooperation.
Sure. I spoke slowly. To be honest, I didn't really know him at all. I know that makes it less likely I'll know his passphrase, so I'm sorry. That's strange, isn't it?
Not particularly.
She spoke out, beginning to walk to my dad's study, her previous indifference turning to something more as she continued.
I don't think that's strange. I didn't know either of my parents, and I'm grateful for that. I think they would have held me back anyway. Adults try to mold their children to be exact, unchanged copies of themselves. That's why this world is falling apart, why we repeat the same mistakes over and over again. Change is the only way to survive.
Her face had shifted by the end of that sentence, her eyes now looking at me with a glistening excitement I had yet to see. I got the feeling she was waiting for me to agree. I wasn't sure I could quite match such a radical statement, but her face, stretched in an almost maniacal grin, made me sputter out what I assumed she wanted to hear without even realizing how deranged it was. Sounds like it was about time the facility got some new management then. I spoke softly before my eyes widened in horror. I nearly clapped my hand over my mouth immediately after saying it. Jesus Christ, that sounded downright sociopathic. Those people above her in the chain of command had died not but 3 days ago. What the hell was I saying? Just suddenly...
Exactly!
Cersei exploded in a disbelieving smile, eyes searching me harder than ever before.
You understand!
I just stared at her, wide-eyed, mind reeling. I quickly tried to recover, however, shaking my thoughts away and just returning her smile awkwardly.
We'll just see if I'm the change humanity needs.
She shrugged, as if it was all just some sort of game to her.
If not, I suppose someone else will replace me. That is the way it should be. Go hard or let someone else go harder. There is no room for apathy in this world anymore.
With that, she whirled around, slamming open the door to my dad's study as if she owned the place. The screen of the computer stared back at me from across the room, illuminating pages and folders strewn about the room, likely from the team's earlier desperate attempt to search for the passphrase. The computer itself was layered with wires, a bundle of cords leading to another laptop running some sort of altered command prompt. In turn, the laptop was fitted with several softly whirring external hard drives, motherboards lying like discarded laundry to the point where they nearly obscured the faintly flickering screen.
Whether you guess it or not,
Cersei sighed, kicking aside a bunch of folders.
This setup will go through every possible combination and eventually guess it.
I blinked slowly, taking a heavy breath at the sheer complexity of the operation.
Our hopes is that the password database will be able to fit together a 29-character phrase within 6 days.
She continued, eyes narrowing as she plopped down at a chair beside the desk and kicked out another chair for me.
But if his password isn't within the commonly used parameters, it could take far longer.
How long? I stammered, cautiously sitting down, careful not to trip over any wires.
Well, with a phrase this length,
Cersei pondered, slapping her feet up onto the desk and leaning back.
Probably about 25 years.
I choked.
So, let's get started.
She sighed.
You see the odds we're up against. You are our best hope. Every second we waste, Subject 12 gets closer to slaughtering everyone you care about.